Kia ora tātou. We have a quorum and it is past, so I'd like to kick us off. I'm going to do the opening karakia today. Let's get you to stand. Tuia ki te mauri o te whenua, tuia ki te mana o te tangata, tuia ki te pono, te aroha, kia piki, kia eke, ki te taumata, uie tai tui. But welcome our guests online as well, Mr. Tilton and Co, and our videographer, and of course Jade. So the next item is apologies. So we have an apology from the Mayor, who had to be another hui, and just for slightly bit for lateness for Maru. Maru's obviously left school and Lutheran is on his way here, so we'll just note him for lateness. I'm happy to move that. Happy to second that. Councillor Taylor, all those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Okay, the next item is our public conflicts of interest. Yes. So is any conflicts of interest that anybody wants to declare? So we'll just note, obviously there's the known conflicts in terms of ownership and everything else. Couple eight, yeah. And then the next item, what is this? Yeah. We'll do that first. Okay, yep. We're going to do the minutes before we move to the public forum. So obviously we're going to take those as read. A little while ago now, I was 30th of November, and that's because we've been having a lot of workshops to progress the work to get us to today. I thought it'd be fairly straightforward, and we note that we said we could hold some of these hui's at Taupo, and here we are today at Taupo. So can I ask for a mover and a second? Move Sandra. Second, Aroa French. All those favour say aye. Aye. Against, kapai. Public forum. So as advertised, we have two speakers today for the public forum. First is Mr. John Tilton, who is online, and he will have 15 minutes to talk to his kōrero, noting that he has his letter at the back of our report. We've all had a chance to read that. So we want to make sure Mr. Tilton has the opportunity to use up his time well. And then we may have a representative from Wyatt.
Is that correct? Oh, sorry,
Yes. I understand it may be closer to 4 o'clock, but she is definitely available.
Are we able to accommodate that? Yes. We can accommodate that. Okay. Without further ado, Mr. Tilton, did you want to present as part of the public forum?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, councillors, committee representatives and staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about the Motutere Reserve Plan of Management and in particular the future use of the waterfront. I'm not going to go over all my attached report specifically, as I think it speaks for itself, and I just hope everyone has had a good read of it. I intend to read my address and not try and ad-lib. It's important that I cover the ground quickly and within my time. So sorry about that, but bear with me. I'll try and get through it quickly. Firstly, thank you to staff and councillors for their support of the new 33-year lease and the possible inclusion of the expansion areas. I understand this must still be decided and go to full council for adoption, but it is a huge step in the right direction and will help in providing replacement sites for the motorhomes I'm proposing be taken off the waterfront. From the commencement of this plan of management, I've tried to find middle ground relating to the future of the waterfront. I've tried unsuccessfully to have staff arrange for me to meet with the iwi representatives that are here today, so I can understand more clearly the issues they have with camping on the waterfront. It was very disappointing that this did not take place. I've tried to compromise at every turn. Just a minute. Yes. To date, I've volunteered to remove caravans, motorhomes, off the waterfront over time. When requested, I've ordered new signage to help keep people from wandering into the housing area. I've volunteered to remove motorhomes from the waterfront. I've agreed to relocate the domes and find a more acceptable colour. I have drawn up a new master plan for discussion at a cost of $10,000. It was never ever discussed. In this latest report, I've now agreed to the option of a new lease being drawn up that includes a plan to close camping to the south of the boat ramp and turning it into a day visitor area. Camping would remain to be offered on the northern side of the ramp. This is what is in the report, as I think is option 2. In agreeing to the public recreation area, I don't for 1 minute accept the staff's report that states it has become evident that the current campground lease arrangement on the foreshore fundamentally conflicts with the core objectives of a recreation reserve. The exclusivity of the current campground has significantly limited public access to Motutere Bay. This is contrary to the purpose of a recreation reserve, which should be accessible and enjoyable for all members of the community. I have to say, when I read this, of course it is in conflict with a normal recreation reserve, because it is not a normal recreation reserve. It's a legal operating gazetted camping ground. The report goes on to say officers reviewed the current campground lease and determined that camping on the foreshore is restricting public enjoyment of the reserve. Really? A designated campground is restricting non-paying patrons from use of the campground. What else would anyone expect in a campground in any location in New Zealand or Australia? But at the bottom of page 23 of the report, we finally read, the Act also grants specific powers to the administrative body to lease recreation reserves for camping. This statement should have been revealed to councillors at the beginning of the report, not stated briefly on page 23. The camping on the foreshore is operating legally, and it is not in any way in conflict with a normal recreation reserve because it is not one. Public recreation land is gazetted and set aside for camping and other businesses throughout New Zealand and Australia. For that right, the lessee pays a commercial rent that goes towards the maintenance of the land and provision of assets and maintaining other public reserves. Governments of the past gazetted that these locations be set aside for camping areas so that camping could be contained and regulated properly, and therefore I would say that closing waterfront camping will lead to huge increases of illegal camping around the lake, dumping of waste, rubbish, etc. I've written thousands of these type of reports in my past life, sorry. I was taught that a good report presented to councillors when read should never indicate the view of the author. This report does not pass that test. It is incredibly biased against the campground remaining. No wonder many of those that have read the report have been so upset. I'm also asked why wasn't, this is from residents, I'm also asked why wasn't Hallett's Bay, bracket Sandy Bay, or Otuarua considered for a public recreation area? I don't know the answers to those. I don't know the areas. I've just raised it on behalf of those people. I now want to spend a few minutes and let you hear from those people that have enormous interest in Motutere waterfront camping but have never been given a chance to speak. That is because their holidays have ended and they are now overseas and back home with their wonderful memories of New Zealand and Lake Taupo. Firstly, I'd like to tell you about one backpacking case I know very well, and then I will take a few minutes to read some reviews. In 1994, when a couple of 21-year-old guys came to New Zealand from Australia on a 9-month backpacking adventure, they travelled from Wellington across the strait and down the west coast, hitchhiking all the way to Queenstown, where they worked through the winter months. After the snow season, they travelled to the North Island in the Hillman Humber. They proudly bought for $80 plus the price of a new battery. They travelled to New Plymouth, walked on the black sand, saw Mount Egmont, and then drove across the craziest mountain road to Lake Taupo on their way to the Bay of Islands. They stayed that night at Motutere Campground and was invited to go trout fishing by a guy they met at a pub. His boat was called the Southern Cross and was moored in the Taupo Harbour. The memories from that day in the trout he caught and cooked on board were his fondest memories of his trip to New Zealand. I know that's the case because that was me, along with my best mate that took that journey. That was 50 years ago this September that I enjoyed the waterfront camping in a small tent and a sleeping bag. We were no different to the 20,000 visitors that camp on Motutere from overseas every year. They have similar wonderful memories. We sit at 4.3 on Google reviews. Most visitors leave wonderful reviews, not the few negative reviews selected by the author of this report relating to the trucks. Councillors should take the time to read them. Here are just a few. I would highly recommend Top 10 Holiday Parks Motutere Bay for future customers looking for a great camping experience. Friendly service, clean amenities, amazing views. You can't go wrong. February 2024. Beautiful location and clean facilities, which is a must. Camping here is easy. Just need earplugs for the traffic, which you can grab for free at the office. Once you get into the rhythm, you do not notice the traffic so much. It's worth the stay. We stayed lakeside, powerside. It was wonderful. January 24. Nowhere compares to Motutere. Premium sites right on the lakefront. Clean and tidy, wonderful staff and amazing hosts. January 24. The facilities were convenient, well looked after. The water was warmer than expected and delightful. Great facilities for children when not swimming. Meant we could read and relax knowing the children were safe in the park or games room. January 24. Clean and always tidy. A great overnight break halfway between Auckland and Wellington. 10 sites and cabins available with convenient and well thought out facilities. Wasn't the best weather for our time, but definitely a great spot. December 23. Clean, well-maintained facilities and a friendly, helpful staff. And one of the best locations in New Zealand made this such a great holiday. Positive. Everything is right by the lake. There are trampolines, fuzzball, free DVDs, tea, coffee, hot chocolate and great ice cream at reception. Negative, nothing. Love the lakefront. Sorry, that was December 23. Love the lakefront sites, access to the lake, beautiful lakefront, great swimming. February 24. Beautiful camping spot right besides the lake's edge. Awesome sunny weather, fantastic holiday park, beautiful scenery and swimming. February 24. It's very clean. The quietness, space is beautiful and great customer service. It was enjoyable, great place to spend time with families. December 23. Had a great time swimming there, hiring a kayak. Even though the road is close by, it didn't disturb us. We got a good night's sleep. February 24, nice location right in front of the lake with enough trees and bush to provide shade. I could go on. There are another few pages, but I won't bore you. New lease. I think it's very important that the new holiday park lease is drawn up now and not just left hanging for 14 years. If a decision is not made now, then I can see the plan of management just being put on a shelf and left to gather dust, just as the 2003 plan did. Incorporating the new plan of management in a new lease allows the recommendations of the plan to be implemented now, allows a 50-year-old lease to be updated, and there's many major issues the council would love to address now and not in 14 years. One serious issue is the vehicle access to the boat ramp. My legal advice is that the lessee currently can close the vehicle access to the boat ramp. The lease is silent and does not show a public road. I also maintain the access road. I've not taken this action, but if the lease is sold, it cannot presume the next lessee won't do that. A new lease allows me to complete my OIO obligations, provide certainty to the residents, allows me to invest in a business with confidence of tenure, and provides council with an update valuation for rental assessment. Closing the waterfront will go directly against the 90% plus of people who answered your request for consultation by saying leave the waterfront as is. It will be detrimental to tourism and it will create unnecessary division. Again, these statistics were completely omitted from the report, and instead you were told decisions were not solely based on the number of people providing feedback. That's all that it mentioned. If this is the case, why did you bother asking them for their view? Conclusion. In conclusion, I'm just a guest in your country and I'm pleased to have been granted the right to manage and develop such an iconic location as Motutere Bay. I'm sure he's recognised that I've gone out of my way to find a solution that all parties can accept and build into the plan. Camping is a wonderful experience for New Zealand residents. It brings people to your country and creates those wonderful memories. Backpacking is New Zealand, and I hope the committee will accept the staff's option within the report to share the waterfront with day visitors and campers. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Good, thank you, John. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Toulton? Mindful that public forums aren't open for debate and things like that, and so the main purpose is to receive this quarter. But do you guys have any questions or application? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Toulton. Hopefully, you can
Thank you very much.
The meeting, and yeah, hopefully we'll still get a good outcome today. Kia ora. So I'm going to adjourn, for want of a better word, pause our public forum until 4 o'clock, when we can have Maya Wakaira to do the second 15 minutes, if everybody's agreeable to that. And we will move to the next item, which is 5.2, direction on restriction of vehicle access to Taupō.
Help us.
I should have practiced that. Bay and Draft Motutere Reserve Management Plan. I'm sure they can edit that out afterwards. This is going to be presented by Heidi. Kia ora, Heidi.
Good afternoon. So I am going to take the paper as read, summary of it. So Taupō Bay is the map here actually. It is the long stretch of reserve that runs between Motutere Bay and Watutoko. Through the investigation of this plan, we've come up with a list of issues that were identified as to why the bay has not been adequately providing for public lakeside recreation as an alternative to Motutere Bay. The list of issues start with the bay being parallel to State Highway 1, which is an 80-kilometre stretch of road, meaning it's unsafe to turn and there is no access turning phase into the bay. It's a unsafe swimming area as the lake bed is shallow, rocky and exposed, creating an unenjoyable experience for users. The internal access road is in poor condition, influencing drivers to use the grassed area as vehicle access, resulting in environmental degradation. There's no water or wastewater services, and there's been reports of illegal camping, dumping and offensive behaviour occurring on the bay. Through the analysis of this review, with the measures of safety, road safety, reserve matters, and discussions with our Parks and Reserves team, staff have concluded that vehicle access should be restricted along this bay to better provide for public use and enjoyment. The recommendation from our Parks and Reserves team is to maintain some vehicle access but consolidate this into a car park that is visible from State Highway 1 to mitigate poor behaviour. Clear direction from the committee is now required, so the preferred option can be included in the draft reserve management plan for public consultation. I'll open it up for discussion between you.
Thank you, Heidi. I'd start with any questions first from Jade. Hello, my Jade. It's your hand.
Kia ora tātou. No, I don't have any questions or comment really. Thank you, Heidi, for your presentation. That was clear. I think that the recommendation put provides a solution to some of the issues that have been raised across the board. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Jade. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I also agree that my preferred option on this would be option 2 as recommended, restricting access. Although I would caution, I'm not convinced that it will have the desired outcome of preventing antisocial behaviour or illegal camping, because those behaviours are going to occur irrespective. But I would be opposed to blocking all vehicle access, because all that will happen then is people will park on the state highway and it will increase the risk in that location. So I think the option recommended is actually a good one.
Yeah, I too agree that the recommended option is a good one. I would just like to say that there is some unsavoury issues down there quite regularly. So thank you for recognising that, Heidi. And I think that if the public can at least get to have a picnic or something down there during the day, but it not be a permanent thing that you can sleep over, that would be really lovely. Maybe some signage as well we could get down there. But yeah, kia ora.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, just following on from the other speakers, I go past there most days, like those of us who live down there, and I have been taking a particular night recently, and today when I came past, there was a great big huge truck. Did you see it? Yeah.
And washing.
Yeah, you know, and I'm like, oh, whatever. I felt like stopping and having a little chat to him. And so, you know, without sort of really going into operational, which of course I'm about to, something that actually restricts vehicles from straying from that path and, you know, possibly one way in from the southern end and out of the northern end, something like that. So it's very, very clear. The only thing I would say would be drivers on an 80-kilometre driving, I suspect that might actually go back to 100 sometime soon. So, yeah, very clear signs on safety pulling it out of there. Because I often come around that corner and all of a sudden people see it and stop in the middle of the road, and if I'm coming from Taupo, and they hang a right to go in there, which is very, very dangerous on that corner. So they're all operational things, but yes, you run down that road and you know exactly what's going on, and option 2 certainly is the one that I think would probably work for everybody. It's iconic. It's an iconic place across New Zealand. Option 2?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, did I say 1? Oh, sorry, no, not 1, 2. No, it's an iconic part of New Zealand, and I think we need to preserve it, look after it, and those of us who live in the area want to see it just cared for a bit better. Yeah.
Just to add on to Councillor Greenslade, being iconic, it was a cemetery years ago. So to have some signage there would be really lovely. Just to recognise that. So the local hapu had all their people buried there along that whole strip. They were exhumed for the roadway and reburied over at Motutere Island. Yeah. Kia ora.
It's important.
Cool. Thank you for that. Shane's going to have a go at trying to share the, share the recommendation on the screen, which we're going to turn into a resolution. And while we're doing that, if there's anybody that would like to move in that direction, move Sandra, seconded by Aroha. I'm just going to make sure it's shared on the Teams for the track and pen. Can you, Jade, can you see a recommendation on the screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So the recommendation is now a resolution, and it's been moved by Councillor. It's seconded by. I don't have to put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against. Carry. Very good. So just move to the next item, item 5.3, direction on proposed camping expansion areas and draft Motutere reserve management. Right. They're just unsharing. Just give us 1 moment. So this is Carter Scott. Kia ora kara. Oh, kara Scott.
I just mentioned that Maya is on.
Okay. Kia ora Maya, welcome. We just adjourned our public forum session until you could come online. And if you'd like to do your 15 minutes now, that will be great.
Ka mai se o tira tēnā tātou katoa I ngā memo o te committee tēnā hoki koe Mr Tilton and those additional persons who are joining us, if any. Could I get an indication to as to where you're at in the hui? I understand a resolution was just passed, just so I have a sense of what it is that you wish me to be speaking to. And again, apologies for lateness. I've just arrived at the airport from a mediation today.
Good, Maya. So we had set aside today some time under public forum, 15 minutes for Mr Tilton, 15 minutes for a representative from Toko to talk about, I thought it was to do with the video's report, but I'm not sure.
That was an option, I think.
That was an option.
Thank you, sir. Okay, perhaps I'll just use my time wisely. I had been provided a copy of the reports that have gone to the committee, and so if it's appropriate, intended to give an indication of the matters for decision, noting of course that I've come after a resolution has already been passed about Ōtaia Atua, but happily that's consistent with the hapu position in relation to that matter. Yes, report has been tabled with council staff. I'm not sure that it's come to the committee as yet. It identifies some areas within the campground, which from a location perspective, we still need to work through with the hapu as to the exact nature and extent, but for which we are having ongoing hapu discussions, and it's been of great utility together with the ecological report and thinking about the issues. So that's the brief update there, sir. In terms of, is it appropriate? Are you comfortable with me addressing you as to the other decision points? I understand that you're making decisions today about the inclusion of matters within the draft plan that would then go out for consultation. Is this the appropriate time to make comment?
It's a public forum and you have 15 minutes and we'll represent you.
Thank you. Just I wasn't sure whether or not Mr Tilton had spoken and wanted to make sure I wasn't preempting any other time. So I'm not as closely lined up with which option is called which, so perhaps I'll just refer directly to the matters as I understand them. So understand the two additional matters in question relate to the campgrounds expansion. The point that we'd make, the hapu would make in relation to that is that they note the ecological report talking about potential effects as to one of the campground expansion areas and the other area requiring a hail assessment, and also having a site that has been identified within Herea's report, Herea Winetana's report, as being of significance. So they will need to consider those matters, and so that is something that they intend to discuss in the context of consultation on the draft plan in relation to those areas for potential expansion. The hapu understand that does not, it's a discussion point at that point in terms of the draft plan, and so it doesn't dictate that will be the ultimate outcome. So that's important to them. In terms of the lakefront issue, there is a strong position there in relation to a lakefront matter in terms of whether or not there should be day use and no camping activities, or day use and some camping activities. The position of the hapu is that the recreational reserve is about providing access to recreational opportunities, and opportunities from a hapu perspective in particular to have public access with the site. They do consider that the campground activities on the lakeshore to date have created a situation where a public space and a space that is of immense cultural significance in Ngāti Turangi te hapu has become one that is perceived at least as a private space, and so it has created issues with the interaction with that space. that there is a preference that it is important so that there is a mindset shift in the relationship with that space, that what goes out in draft is the proposal to have no campground activities on the lakeshore in order to provide for that relationship with the lakefront, in order to provide for a significant relationship from Ngāti Turangi to Hapu with Taupō waters, the waters that are adjacent to it, with the ability for them to have a space where, as a hapu, they can properly engage in that land to wai relationship, and the ability for them to participate in an area that has for a long time now otherwise been subject to the need to participate in campground activities to have a place there. So there is a strong view that without going out to, in terms of the draft plan and indicating that we're considering a change here, then we'd be reliant on others raising it, and the starting point in terms of consultation would be that there would be campground activities, at least in terms of the discussions, and so having the opportunity to flip that and to look at day use only, they consider as appropriate in this instance. I think that's probably my time, sir.
Thank you, Maya. We need to receive public spend. Sorry, were there any questions for clarity? So we will start. I'm just going to share the resolution for receiving the discussion as part of the public forum from Mr. Tilton and Maya.
Thank you, sir. And just while you're receiving the resolution, I apologise again that in order to catch my flight, I may have to leave early, but again, as last time, I'll stay on as long as I can.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to move the resolution that the Motutere Recreation Reserve Management Plan Committee receives comments from Mr. Tilton and Miss Maya Wakaira. Moved Danny Lachlan, seconded Aroha. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
So we're going to go back to item 5.3. And we have Kara. Scott is going to present this paper. Kara.
Yeah, and actually, evening, hi online. Anyway, would you please, the black cord needs to go into your laptop, and then I'll be sharing your screen. So, yeah. So the next direction that we're seeking for consultation on a proposed management plan would be the camping expansion areas. I'll take the report as read, but if it's okay, I can summarise. So two expansion areas, just to give you a quick overview, one has significant Indigenous vegetation, conditions that are removable, and the second has a potential, or has a contaminated site and potential further contamination subject to soil testing. And both the proposed expansion areas have.
Do you mind just speaking up a little bit, or get nice? Thank you. It's much better, thank you.
Both proposed expansion areas have significant cultural sites nearby. So I'll briefly outline each of those. This is the map of the 2004 recreation reserve management and showing the proposed expansion areas back in 2004. So there's a dark blue. Now, the dark blue area shows the expansion area, and the teal and the green coloured area is a camp expansion area for active recreation. That's how it was identified back in 2004. Because we're looking at plans with north facing up the page, I've just sort of superimposed that broad area over the maps that we're currently looking at. So if you look into the bottom of the page, there you've got the dark blue expansion area, and then just sort of directly above it, it's the teal coloured central expansion area. So just considering expansion area number 1, which is to the back of the stinking ground, some of the matters that have been considered are the cultural and natural values. So the previous management plan didn't have a cultural values report to accompany it. So we now have a better understanding of the early history and sites of cultural significance of the area. It is sensitive information, and the committee has the cultural values report. And we'd have to consider in the draft management plan standard provisions for instance an accidental discovery protocol to look at that as an expansion area. And even opportunities to express cultural narrative, Ngāti Tarangi I Te Hapu to do so. And we had an ecological report done. So I've just got on this map showing a blue area. And so back in 2019, we re-looked at our significant natural areas in the district plan, and the blue area identified potential new significant vegetation. So that's, I guess, a change since the last RMP, is that the native vegetation has grown back. So while it's not an actual significant natural area in our district plan, the Reserves Act does require us to protect significant vegetation, and the National Policy Statement for Indigenous Biodiversity requires no loss. So the National Policy Statement provides methods to offset any loss within the same ecological district, and typically that's done in a ratio of 4 to 1. So that means for every 1 hectare of native bush that you might remove, you'd be required to plant hectares. Motutere Recreation Reserve is large enough that we could offset around 1 hectare of removal within the site. That would include the entire. Alternatively, the ecological report noted that you could have a camping style that's nestled in the native vegetation, so you would remove the wildland pine trees that are also there and potentially work within that space. There's also adjacent forestry operations to consider. So under the National Environmental Standards for Commercial Forestry, there's a requirement to be 30 metres off urban areas. While this is an urban area, if there was a campground expansion, need to for it as a use where it's creating areas for people to be. So already there's a 10-metre setback requirement, so we would consider that, and this option would look at a 20-metre setback from the adjacent forestry operations to create a 30-metre setback, and a 40-metre setback on the south side where this expansion area joins the scenic reserve and existing significant natural area. So those are just some of the considerations for that area. Are there any questions on that so far? No, on a bit quickly.
Thank you, through the chair. So we know that SNAs are not going to be in active any longer. They're basically not, no. So we're using the National Policy Statement for Indigenous Biodiversity sort of in its place, are we? Is that what you were saying?
So significant natural areas still will exist. It's the identification of new ones, and
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, so we can't create a new one.
legislation that requires us to protect these areas, particularly on recreation reserves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that was my understanding too. Yes, okay, thank you.
Good. Welcome, Mari Maniapoto. We noted you had a short delay in terms of arrival. Is there any more questions for Kara on this matter? Councillor?
But do you want to take it as we go through each part? I just express my concern, not just on this block of land, but it's specific here, is that particularly the application of the SNA protocols, you end up penalising landowners for doing the right thing and preserving native bush. And I do note that this is regenerated native bush, not virgin forest. So, I mean, I'm could have put my cards on the table. I am leaning away from a strict application of thou shalt not touch because it's an SNA, and leaning towards, well, if we cut one tree down here, we can't find somewhere else to compensate. Otherwise, what you find is, and in this case, Hapu in particular won't be able to use any of their land because it's in an SNA. And I have some issues with that.
Through the chair, I think that was the point I was making, Councillor. That it's all right to say it's a draft SNA, but we're not doing any new SNAs, so it's sort of becomes superfluous, and you've used another legal situation to protect the flora there. That's what I'm hearing.
That's not quite how I read the.
That's what I mean. You read it. We need to explore that a bit more.
My reading was that this wasn't an SNA, but we were applying the principle, well, we're applying the National Policy Statement in terms of the method of exchange of 1 for 4, and that we were comfortable that there was enough with enough area that we could plant in indigenous species to meet that method. So I guess the question for me though is, apart from that maybe being mentioned in the conditions, that's not what we're actually deciding. We're just deciding that these areas, expansion area 1 and 2, with these conditions, is something that we will support. That will give us more options when we come to item 5.4. So I don't think we are setting a precedent or anything like that by agreeing to the recommendations. Would that be right? Warwick's nodding. So I get the frustrations of some of our members in terms of SNAs and the impact. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion outside of this meeting, but I don't think our job is to, I mean, I think it's important that we've noted it in the minutes, the concern that this is going to impact on a lot of Māori and non-Māori land, obviously, because this is land that's being administered by a council. But I'm comfortable that we can, our worst case scenarios, we can do some wonderful native planting and tick off what our interpretation of meeting the National Policy Statement is without causing any sort of major legal or other headaches for anybody else. But I think it is our job to be considering those requirements, and I'm pleased that you've done this week and that we were able to engage Singers Ecological to assist with that process. Is there any more questions for Kara in terms of this? I think we're all in a place where I think we want to support the option because it gives us more options in terms of the next item.
You just one chair. A little bit of I'm really confused now. And one of the things is, you mentioned that there was some new fauna. As we see this area, if we to be able to give Mr. Tilton a fair go, And that's where he wants to, or he's recommended to put the new area. Have you identify where this new fauna and flora is? Because we don't want to start making these decisions and we have a block, you know? Yes, so that blue area is where the draft SNA is, so that's where it meets the criteria. But within the next area to the back of the campground is also large wilding pine trees. They take up quite a bit of that area as well. So the ecological report talks about an option of offsetting. So if you were to remove, and then once we put those setbacks in around, say, a hectare of vegetation there, you would offset it by planting 4 hectares elsewhere. It could be elsewhere in the ecological district, but we think it would be good to have it within the reserve. Or another option is a different style of camping where you only remove the large wild pines and then have tree nestled camping.
Are you happy for me to take Jade's question?
Yes.
Go to Jade.
Kia ora. I think just a sorry, just a comment that I take your point, Mr. Chair, around the method being discussed in relation to the NPSIB, or the method for mitigating in terms of the 4-to-1 formula. Additionally, we've now got some information through the Cultural Values Report that speaks to some of the significance of cultural sites within there. So I think, yes, there is a good point for there to be some concern in terms of what may or may not be able to be done on the draft SNA. But also, we've also got more information around the cultural significance of that area as well. So I think we're better informed in terms of how we might navigate the space. So I'm supporting the direction that we need to do something, and also that we've got information so that there's less risk in us kind of acting out of turn, I guess.
Yeah, I think thanks for that, Jade. I agree that note at the bottom of page 22 that the Cultural Values Report is referred to in terms of needing to engage in terms of if we do end up doing new planting and everything else, that needs to be part of that discussion. Has anybody got any further questions for Kara? Because I'm going to move the resolution on turn the recommendation into resolution on the bottom of page 17. Shane's going to share that up on the screen now. Gary 2. Yeah. So
Mr. Chair, did you want me to go over the other extension area first?
Yes. Do you need the picture back, or do you need
I'll put them on through.
I don't mind. Apologise for getting ahead of myself.
There's just one other matter to consider as well. I suppose if we're looking at the expansion areas, that services will come into the equation. So at the moment, the water is taken, the drink water for the campground is taken from the lake, and then it is treated and then pumped up to 2 tanks. So anything, if water was required for that expansion area, there would be services to that. So obviously we would need to also run that past our asset managers, and the campground, regardless of this expansion area, the campground still requires an upgrade to bring the drinking water to standard. So that's in the current LTP, $2 million. And so to then extend that, we would have to, I guess, address that through the LTP, put that out for specific consultation. And then looking to the where that teal green area is that second expansion area. And this is a bit of a curious area in that, again, we've got the cultural values report has a site of significance within the vicinity of the area. And also the contaminated site in our district plan was identified in the early 2000s. So that was already known, and that's over the former landfill site. But then at some stage, and we're not sure when, the Waikato Regional Council identified a potential further contamination down slope of the former landfill, and that's known as a hazardous activities and industries list, HAIL site. So we've looked at old aerial photos and the contaminated site that is in the district plan, which is the all kind of red area on that map, seems to be over the former site, but we're a bit unsure as to why there's also potential contamination further down. It could be because of potential leaching, but the HAIL report by the Regional Council was still subject to soil testing. So we would recommend that that area could still be suitable for, say, a field kicking a ball around, but if there was further accommodation proposed, it would require specific soil testing. Questions on that aspect?
Councillor Green Slade.
That was very interesting in the report, and I sort of feel that, as you said, we've got to do that testing and find out exactly what the situation currently is, because the statement where it was the practice to burn rubbish in that site seems to suggest that actually it's not. I mean, contaminated can range from 1 to 100 and everything in between. And just from what you've said in your report, I sort of feel that you're probably not that concerned about it, that in fact we can use that area for sport, whatever. Yeah. But we've got to, that report's got to be done, doesn't it? That report's got to be done. Yeah.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Green. So I'm just looking at page 22 on the agenda, with a bit of quotation marks. If I can summarise that in my own lingo, it's basically says nothing to see here.
Yeah.
But if there is in fact something to see here, the concern is not just for redevelopment for a recreational site, but that's going to leach directly into the lake. So if there is some contamination, if there's any leaching, I would be uncomfortable if investigation wasn't done, irrespective of this becoming an expansion site. Like that turns up for me a bigger issue. Although the comments here indicate there is basically no further investigation, monitoring, consent action is required. Basically what I'm reading into it, but if there is something, then I think we need to do the investigation anyway.
Having said that, if we sign off what we're signing off today, that work will be done.
Sounds good to me.
So, any questions, buddy? We're all good. So we're going to put the resolution on the screen. We're not rushing, Shani. And so it's the one on page 17. And we're comfortable, Ada, that the conditions include all the different things that we need to be considering and doing. Obviously, there's still public consultation, everything else to occur, so we have a bit of time to do the work in terms of soil testing and everything else. But I agree with Councillor Taylor, sometimes these house sites and everything else is just a database that's sitting there and nobody can remember why it was done in the first place. So put the resolution up on the screen. The Motutere Recreation Reserve Management Plan Committee directs officers to continue drafting the RMP based on Camp Expansion Area 1, include option 2 with proposed conditions, and Camp Expansion Area 2, include option 2 with proposed conditions. Noting that the final decision making on preferred options were made following the community consultation period.
Just so we're clear, although it's not in the recommendation, what we are suggesting is that we approve both of those expansion areas. Yep.
We're going through does that include the hail contaminated sites? Yes, it does.
That's
It's part of it.
so through the chair, no disrespect, but the recommendation we've got there is a Reader's Digest version of what actually the options are. I just wonder whether it should be more explicit as to what we are agreeing to, and that the wording should be cut pasted out of option 2 rather than just refer to it.
It's engaged.
Yes, yeah.
Jade has her hand up, even though we can't see it here. Go to Jade.
Kia ora tata. I agree with
Okay.
feel that this Reader's Digest version probably needs to be expanded. Can I just confirm though? So we're recommending that hail assessment. So as part of this, folded into this, is that the hail assessment be conducted, and there is. Am I right that subject to the findings of that?
Okay.
So we're going to move forward with drafting the RMP based on the decisions we're making, but there will be in the event that a hail assessment finds something, there is a proviso there, isn't there? I just want to check with officials. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's great, Jane. Sorry. Yeah. In the actual paper, the reports, you'll see the options are detailed there. So option 1 for the SNA expansion area says with controls of vegetation clearance at onset conditions. And for expansion area 2, option 2 would be approve it, but use it as an area and further expansion is subject.
So we've tried to copy those words from page something or other, 24, but they'll be on the screen shortly. Okay. So just any other final questions or comments? Okay.
Like it for me.
Yes, you may.
I was very impressed with Nick Singer's report.
Oh,
It was excellent, very, very helpful. And as a resident in the area, it was really lovely to read about all the different bird life and plants and social, and not anywhere near as sort of contaminated with foreign stuff as perhaps we first thought. It was a really great report to read, actually. Yeah, really enjoyed reading that.
you have the proposed resolution that is a bit more clear in terms of what we're approving. I think Councillor Taylor's been to look at this on both yes. Buddy, are you happy with it? Would you like to second the resolution, Buddy? Happy with that?
Yep.
Yes. Sorry. Seconded by Mari Maniapoto. All those who say aye. Against, carried. We now move on to item 5.4. It feels like I'm rushing through a little bit. I'm trying to make sure we've got enough time for the more meaty parts of this meeting. Well, I think we're doing very, very well. And another hour up our sleeves. So Nick, so Kara, you're presenting this one as well? Kara.
So the next direction we're seeking consultation is the configuration of Motutere Bay Lakeshore East area. There are 3 options that we're asking you to consider and direction on. So just as an overview, option 1 is the status quo, so that's the current situation on the lakefront. Options 2 and 3 provide different amounts of public day use versus camping. So I'll run through each of those briefly. Just going back to the 2004 so it shows the portable camping area as the red area. it's also got a note to say that all foreshore areas are subject to a 20-metre access right of way. Just talking about this.
I hope something. We have some clarification on that. The 20 metres, is that from which datum reference point is that? I know it's a vexed question. Not as vexed as defining a braided river in the South Island, but getting close.
Yeah, for the purposes of the read, that this particular RMP, I know that it's well defined in terms of what that might look like in terms of the campaign.
So I guess just for clarification, the reason I ask is that if we have a 20-metre buffer, it actually makes a significant difference as to where that starts and stops, particularly depending on which option we eventually go for, because that will define if we can walk wherever as of right and which may or may not remain as camping ground, and that's actually really important. All right.
I think find that that's measured from the Taupō boundary, which is defined by a datum level, which is 357.015. So that it obviously shifts over time. I mean, it's not a fixed boundary. So if you have erosion or accretion, then that can move slightly. But I believe that that's where your 20-metre buffer starts. So most of the time that's around about where the water level is of the lake, but obviously if we have lake drawdown by mercury, then that's sitting in dry ground, and if the lake's really high, then that's going to be a bit wet. Does that make sense?
It's movable.
It is.
Oh, no.
So it moves over time. So the top of the mercury lake level management regime is 357.25 meters above sea level, whereas the Taupō boundary is 357.015, so just a bit below that. So if mercury is operating at the top of the regime, then that edge of the lake bed is wet. And if they're operating at the bottom of the regime, which is 356, not much, it is dry.
So just for the purposes of this discussion, which is where would the 20 metres approximately be? Maybe we have to do a bit more work afterwards in terms of what goes out for consultation, but maybe you could describe where the 20 metres sort of finishes just for our exercise today, if that's helpful.
Through this year, it's actually the Motutere datum. So it's fixed. Sorry, it doesn't go up and down. It's in a fixed contour levels.
Well, I guess my point is that contour will shift over decades, and that you'll have periods of erosion, periods of accretion, which will change where that contour sits in relation to the Motutere date.
Yeah, my point was that it doesn't go up and down with the lake as such. It makes sense.
So guys, question clarity, I get it. The actual point, if you put a GPS mark on the map, that point doesn't change, but whether your feet get wet or whether you have dry sand kicking around will change depending on where the lake moves. But the actual point on the ground remains the same. If I've heard that correctly. Yeah, thank you. That's the important point I wanted to make.
Okay, keep going.
So there's matters of consideration that we'll be looking at through the current status quo, as well as considering the early feedback that we've had on this reserve management plan so far. So just to reiterate, the purpose of recreation reserves are for the enjoyment of the public and that reserves and the enhancement of reserves activities. Under the Reserves Act, leases are there to give effect to the purpose of recreation reserves. So camping over the entire Lakeshore Reserve has created an excessive period of public access has been restricted. There's no provision of public car parking to service the public boat ramp. Public are restricted in actually getting to the site. Pedestrian access is expected to be via the boat access, which causes safety concerns. Public access to the actual shoreline is at a pinch point, so if you're going through the equal access to the boat ramp, then there's a narrow point at which you actually walk across to the reserve, and there's erosion happening on that part of the lakeshore. Natural character and the foreshore protection area are currently compromised by additional camp infrastructure not anticipated for the foreshore protection area, and like to acknowledge Mr. Children's proposals to remove structures out of that foreshore protection area. Over time, that has impacted on compaction of the reserve and the native conifer trees. Motutere Bay Lakeshore Reserve is reticulated. So, as you know, there's wastewater and water connection. It's within a 60 km/h zone. There's a median and turning bay. And the other foreshore reserves don't for this. I'm essentially recommending consulting on an option that will ultimately improve public access and allow an area for all reserve users. One that removes exclusivity to more inclusive lakeshore, provides public parking facilities associated with the public boat ramp, improves erosion and access points, and allow activities to be centred at a deep swimming bay within an already reticulated site. And in all of the three options that we're considering would require improved pedestrian safety access linking campground activities to the lakeshore. So we would still be looking to improve that through ongoing advocacy to New Zealand Motutere for safe pedestrian users. So this is option 2 in the paper for consideration. That's for no camping on the lakeshore. There'd be a managed retreat approach with a 15-year vision to remove camping to enable a mutually inclusive lakeshore reserve for all users. The outcome would be a lakeshore reserve that enables full public access to and along the lake and restoration of the natural character of the reserve while reducing levels of built infrastructure. It would enable natural character to be restored to a wider area of the lakefront. This would either be following the current lease or timeframes agreed between council and leasee under a new lease. It could include full public boat trailer car parking and car parking facilities, public toilet facility within wastewater reticulated area relocated so that it's outside of the foreshore protection area, enhancement of the natural character of the lake margin throughout the entire base, defined with access points defined and dispersed locations planted with vegetation similar to what June here does with the as we've done on the lakeshore. And then enabling pedestrian public access to the boat. Under this option is potential development for a safe swim zone. It's a boat-free area 50 metres from the boat ramp, enabling opportunities for public water play and, for instance, pontoon. And then option 3 for consideration is a similar outcome to option 2, but with less potential to enhance overall natural character, to enable both public use and camping of tents mainly. And again, this would either be following the current 14-year lease or timeframes agreed between council and the leasee under the new lease. And the outcome would be a lakeshore reserve that provides both a camping experience and ability for council to provide for improved public facilities and access. And it would still provide for public access and facilities benefits to the status quo. The public reserve car park could be lockable at night, maintaining access at all times to the boat ramp. The camping area would require a car park for campers to the east of the boat ramp and minimal car access. The same swim only zone could be provided for, and natural character restoration could still continue the length of the reserve with negotiation of new lease and agreement with the lessee, potentially only to minimise the need for built infrastructure or protection area. So this option would enable camping to continue on the foreshore but require tenting only to minimise impact. The result would be reduction of built structures that all temporary within the protection area. And it's time to pick up the dog.
That is sounds big.
Accessible to years.
Thank you. I'm just going to open it up for any questions for clarification first. So under option 3, there's obviously currently some facilities for the tent type users in terms of toilets and showers and everything else. So under this proposal, would those remain there, or is that just, well, got to be 100% clear?
Sorry, with the public accessible area.
No, in terms of the tents only area. So currently there's existing buildings, showers, toilets and everything else to service those tents, or water intakes and a few other bits and pieces. So your intention is that those buildings would remain to service the tents, or would it just be tents? Because I'm just, that's...
But I think if there was to be tenting on there, you'd still require toilet. Out of water protection area and make sure they're still within the reticulated service area.
So I'll just open it to questions.
Started. I need to go shortly. My apologies for that. The reason I asked my question early on about the 20-metre setback is that you still have access to the entire beachfront for public access, because there is a 20-metre access available, irrespective of whether we fall for one of the two options which retain camping there. I'm also conscious, and reading through the papers and Mr. Tilton's letter and presentations he's had to us previously, that he has already engaged in a staged retreat from the lakefront. And I'm looking at the map in front of me, which kind of draws a line, camping, public reserve, about where the boat ramp is. And I just wonder if we went for option 3, and I'm happy to put my cards on the table, that's where I'm leaning towards. That seems to me to be a fairly arbitrary line on the map. I'd be happy to be convinced that that should be moved east or west by negotiation. Does it have to be right there at the boat ramp, or could it be moved further east and increase the public reserve access to the lakefront? So I haven't got in front of me the cultural report, but I note there were 2 significant sites on the lakefront there. And I know that was a confidential report, but is it appropriate to ask in this one, were they east or west of the boat ramp? And I'm just conscious, if you open up significant sites to a completely public reserve and lose complete control over that, I'm just really a question for Harper as to how appropriate that would be. So,
I might let Kata respond, and then I'll move to Jade.
Chair, so the cultural report pinpoints cultural sites on the lakefront. They're not on that lakeshore, but we may still wish to apply spirit there.
Jade.
Kia ora tātou. I'll start with one question. I didn't quite hear it. So it's to you, through you, Mr. Chair, to Kara. You talked about there being a reticulated system here, and after that, did you say that was not offered at other campgrounds around the lake? Or did I mishear that?
The other foreshore reserves, so Motutere Atua and other Howard's Bay rest areas don't have reticulation.
Okay. Thank you. I think I just want to draw on a few points, because we did at our previous workshops, we have been talking about managed retreat and the need in terms of environmental management to provide some solutions here. There was a comment that this is not a normal reserve, to which I support. It's not a normal reserve. It is quite special, quite unique, and I think we've heard some quite compelling evidence that how it is now needs to change. I heard the comments around a recreation reserve is for the enjoyment. It's for public enjoyment, and there are a number of points in the report, and I'm referring to page 50, that I think give us compelling reasons for why we need to make a better option. My support is for option 2, which should be to remove camping but provide for public day use on that basis. Happy to keep discussing.
Any questions on the side or comments? So while they're thinking, so to be clear, that what we're talking about today are the options that we're going to go out to in terms of public consultation. And as a committee, we're mindful that ultimately, once that's completed and we go through the process, there'll be a recommendation to council, and they will make a decision there. So we are mindful of some of the cultural considerations that would suggest option 2 looks more favourable. Then we've had comments from Councillor Taylor that option 3, which is moving in that direction, but doesn't remove camping completely from that foreshore, is something that he favours. But I would just remind ourselves that it is just the options that we're going to consultation with. That doesn't include people from sharing other views. And I am, rightly or wrongly, I'm pragmatically thinking about once this gets to the council table, in terms of managing all these competing interests. I want to make sure that something that's going there also is tenable.
But yeah, and I just one more comment from me, and my apologies, I will need to go after this. So, unfortunately, I won't get to vote on this, but my comments would be around flexibility and give and take. And I'm conscious that I don't have a stake in this issue. I approach it with a completely open mind. But I'm conscious reading through much of the documentation that Mr. Tilton has conceded significantly in terms of his position on camping there. I'm also conscious that the tent camping only will have a much lesser impact on the lakefront than what is there now and on motor camping. And I'm also conscious, and I don't want to put words in Mr. Sultan's mouth, but there is nothing to stop the current lease owner from just going, no, nothing changes to 2038, which doesn't advance this at all. I'm not suggesting he would do that. I'm conscious that he's sitting, listening, and watching us now. So I'm not in any way projecting that thought, but that is an option. And as the chair has said, this will finally be signed off around this table by all councillors. And I think we need to be quite pragmatic about it. I'll throw in one other thing. I'm really looking forward to the part of this which identifies and tells the story of the significance of this to Hapu, because that's what we've done in other parts of the Rohe. And I'm thinking of the Rangatira Point with the partnership we're developing with the Hapu, or the trust Hapu who own that land. And I think it's important that we don't lose sight of give and take and working together on this. So with those final words, I have to apologise for my departure.
Thank you, Kevin, for the time you could spend with us. So I don't want to cause grief for our process, but the intention, I mean, we clearly need to have an option that we're going out to consultation. Are we able to note if there are differing views, something along those lines? Nick is taking his glasses off, so he's giving it some real consideration, but I still, and again, I'm just trying to find a way forward where we might get some consensus, because I don't think we may be able to achieve that today, given some of the suggestions up to now. So happy to get some technical advice from Warwick, Nick, or anybody. Nick's, no, they're pointing at Nick, from Nick in terms of what we go out with.
Through the chair, I'll just ask Nick to confirm if we could go out to consultation with 2 options in the RMP.
I'm sorry, I'm going to get Jade.
Yeah, you don't know, so I'll let Nick answer, then we'll go back to Jade. Yeah.
My experience about reserve management planning in the past is council's gone out with a draft document, and it's provided direction about what council intends to see happening on reserves in the future. And it's not necessarily, it's not had multiple options on the basis that council's wanted to provide some direction to the community around what the community is responding to. It can be very confusing at times to the community if there's no clear direction from council about where a preference sits. So there's definitely benefit in providing improvements. There's nothing under the Reserves Act that prevents you from going out with multiple options, as I understand it. It's then a question of have you moved anything forward in terms of your planning? And to be honest, that was one of the reasons why this has been put forward as a meeting rather than as a workshop, because as staff, my team's trying to move the drafting forward. And until there's a call that's made around this, from a drafting perspective at least, it's very hard for them to move the drafting process forward. I guess the last thing I'd add is that you as a committee will see the draft reserve management plan before it goes out for consultation. If when you look at that in its totality, you decide that you want to make changes, that will be your right. So as a committee, you'll be able to make adjustments at that stage. But we are very much at a place where we're sort of stuck in the quagmire and not able to.
Thank you, Nick. Jade.
Kia ora tātou. I just wanted to respond to the comments about being pragmatic and give and take. And there'll be some views in the cultural report that suggest that has happened. give and take and being pragmatic has happened by certainly Ngāti Turangi over you know, the last decades and longer time. On pragmatic and on give and take and needing to provide some direction to the plan, I think we're very happy to get to that point and help officers get to a position of drafting. So I think it was to make a point, but also to think, you know, in terms of pragmatism, let's work hard as a committee, given we're around the table here, to give that direction, to get to some united place. And I'll throw to Auntie Aroha and Maru if they've got anything additional to add. Because I agree that we need to give some direction.
Chair, I just want to remind people that, or my colleagues, that we're here for the community as a whole as well. So for myself, I think to honour the community and my hapu, I think two options for the wider community to make a choice. Kia ora.
Sandra?
Yes, actually just listening to both of my colleagues, Councillor Taylor and Araha, pragmatism is certainly something that's going to work for everybody, in the sense of this has to go before council, and what we don't want is for people to take entrenched positions. We want people to actually feel, I know it's a cliche, but actually a win-win for everybody, that people still have access, and also that Mr. Tilton has a viable business. If we're going to be in the business of having leaseholders, we do need to support them. I have to say that no camping at all was my preferred position. I think the waterfront open to everybody is a really lovely idea. That would be what I would prefer, but maybe that's not the right decision for, as Arahi says, the community. Maybe that doesn't work for everybody. And we certainly don't want businesses failing where we are involved with them, but we also need to remember that I think it's gone a little bit further than what probably anyone ever imagined it should go in terms of that waterfront. And I think I'm all for places which are beautiful, keeping beautiful and being beautiful. And I would like to see it restored to a more beautiful place.
Thank you. I think there's a desire to have consensus as a committee. If we can achieve that, to recommend to our team, we're always potentially going to be in this place where we do want to get to this ideal future where we're managing all these competing values, for want of a better word. And when we talk about pragmatism, I think we're talking also a bit about just the timing of how quickly we move that way or not. So it might be that some of the desires aren't all achieved. With this plan, it might be the next plan. So I don't have any magical answers, but I don't think our staff's preference is not to go out with two options. We can do that if we can't achieve consensus. So I don't want to get us into moving resolutions where we say, we pass resolutions about option 2 or option 3. I think we all agree that option 1's not desirable. But I'm looking to the committee in terms of how we can move forward with some consensus. My view is I don't think I can support option 2, and I know Councillor Taylor doesn't get a vote, but he has shared his views, And I'm mindful of his quarter around, you know, we can push for option 2 and the outcome might be that for the rest, you know, the lessee just manages the lease till 2038 status quo, and we don't make any progress. So yeah, looking, Jade's got her hand up. Kia ora, Jade.
Tēnā tātou. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the interest of pragmatism and providing direction and moving this forward and being in a place of consensus, I think that we could support option 3. And, you know, noting your comments, Mr. Chair, on, you know, the longer game in this whole process, and to yours, Councillor, on providing, you know, for the community. So that would, you know, be moving in a direction of consensus that I'm happy to proffer.
Thank you for that. I'm going to get Shani to start turning this into a resolution for option 3. That's all you need from the rest of this report. I think we should. We're happy to move with option 3, but I think in the report we should note the desire of I don't know if we should even say the Ngāti Turangi. I think there is a desire to have a foreshore that has nothing on it. And I think we should note that in the report. But the option that's being recommended is option 3, and the community will have an opportunity to provide feedback on that. But I think it is one in terms of these competing interests that can be managed. So I'm very pleased. That is my first job as a chair of a committee for a plan that we're all still together, working together, which is really, really pleasing. Yeah. Jade's got her hand up. Jade, could have Jade.
Kia ora, just one final comment. I think, you know, we've certainly, as a committee, supported the moves for a managed retreat type approach. So that might be one thing to comment on. And also, you know, that moves in the interests of providing a recreation reserve to provide a public space for everyone's enjoyment. So I think our option 3 place here is sound, but I think it's with you know, with supporting managed retreat in there, and also supporting the move for a public space for everyone's enjoyment.
You're happy with that, team? Is that enough direction? Is that fair? Happy? For those who can't see, there's lots of nodding happening, so that's very pleasing. And want to make sure that you're happy that this is succinct enough to meet Councillor Taylor's desire for succinct resolutions. So we've got the Motutere Recreation Reserve Management Plan Committee directs officers to include the following in the draft Reserve Management Plan. Option 3, reconfigure the Motutere Bay Lakeshore camping lease area to enable separate day use and camping zones, noting that the final decision making on the preferred option will be made following community consultation. Do we need to approve option 3 just to, in terms of how we did the last one?
Question, Chair.
That's because the drafting.
The drafting.
You're directing officers to make.
Thank you.
So when it goes to council, will council be given the 3 options, will they?
No. So this is we're directing our team to.
So what does the final sentence mean?
So through the chair,
Yeah.
What's happening here is that we're getting direction on what will be in the draft reserves management plan to go out for consultation. That draft goes out in consultation, comes back to the committee here, and then the committee will recommend to council what the final reserve management plan will look like. So there's a few stages to progress through. That's correct.
But the key one, Sandra, is that there's going to be this community consultation. You might have a lot of consultation come back to us that says, no, we don't like that, or we fully support it. Until we do that process, there may be changes to the final outcome. So that's what that means. It's just fair to our staff that that's the expectation. Just wondering, Jade, would you be comfortable to move the resolution as proposed?
I would.
And I'd like, Sandra would like to second it. So we'll put the resolution. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. So the next item, I think we're actually finished. We're done. So I think we're done. I think we're going to ask Murray to close us up, just because feel that way. Fine. But that's the meeting done today. Thank you, staff, for being here. I appreciate the committee's hard work today. Note that we're way early of our 5:30 cutoff. And thank you, John Tilton, for sharing your thoughts earlier today at the forum. And Jane, if you could just pass on to Maya, thank you for her the corridor during the forum. I think it was very, very useful.
Absolutely.
That being done, we'll make the microphone on for and we'll stand for a closing karakia.
Come over here with it, because I just pulled it out.
Tuatai ake tēnei te mihi atu ki a tātou e whakarau I ka mai nei, e whakawhaiti mai nei mo tēnei kaupapa whakaharahara. Ai, tika ana taku whanainga, ko tēnei mo te hāpuri. Nārere, e mihi kau atu ki a tātou. E te atua nei mātou o Poronga, e kurupuka ana ke moe I tō araoro. Te akina pai, atuku whakawhetai, whakamoemiti ki a koe, o manakitanga kui tāna ki rongi a mātou I raro I tō ingoa tapu. Amen.
Amen.
Kia ora. It's us.
It's us.